Good afternoon, everyone. Muy buenas tardes a todos y bienvenidos a nuestro Foro Internacional de ProChile y la Cámara de Comercio de Santiago. Antes de empezar, quisiera recordarles que esta sesión cuenta con interpretación simultánea del inglés al español, el cual pueden activar utilizando el botón de Zoom que se encuentra en la parte inferior de sus pantallas. So welcome and thank you everyone for joining us today for our live international forum, Boost Your E-commerce Strategy in the North American Market. This event is jointly organized by ProChile and the Cámara de Comercio de Santiago. It's supported by our strategic partners, the Chilean-Canadian Chamber of Commerce, the Cámara Chileno-Mexicana, the E-Commerce Institute, and the American Chamber of Commerce in Chile. Few brief rules of this event. The event will be in English. As I mentioned in my introduction, the event will be in English with simultaneous interpretation available from English to Spanish by clicking on the translation button, that little globe that you can find at the bottom of your screen. We welcome you to leave your comments in the chat box, but in the essence of time, there will be no Q&A session for this forum. And those are the brief rules. So without further ado, I have the tremendous pleasure of introducing you to the Director General of ProChile, Mr. Jorge Orion Schutz, who will provide some opening remarks. Director.
Muchas gracias, Laura. Un gran saludo a todos de la distancia. From Santiago de Chile, a special greeting to all those who are listening to us today, especially to our exporting companies, investors, and especially to the panelists, George Lever, Sarah Skrusfield, Melissa Pegas, Gonzalo Pascual, and Javier Aguirre. Thank you very much for joining us today, and also my special thanks to our professionals in ProChile who organize this event. Behind of those kind of events are a lot of work. So thank you very much. In the next 3-4 minutes, I will say, would like to put on the table some ideas. And it's just a really honor for me to have the possibility or the chance to deliver this welcoming remarks today, as we in ProChile have taken on the mission to drive our business to be present on e-commerce channels and compete in them. We are driven by the belief that our race to position Chile an e-commerce platform is important today. Any doubt? As a race to liberalize trade was the beginning of this millennium. We're witnessing the growth of a generation that has grown through the process of digital immersion. And the way to reach them must be through digital means. Therefore, my first words today are not of encouragement, but I would say rather of urgency. The Chilean business looking for their next strategy. In 3 words: e-commerce, e-commerce, and more e-commerce. For the past year, ProChile has been pioneering an e-commerce strategy for the internationalization of our exports, and such strategy, I would say, relies on 3 pillars. The first one is the data. Pre-COVID, data showed us that by the end of 2020, global e-commerce sales would reach approximately $4.2 trillion and make up 16% of total retail sales. And I would say that's impressive figures. However, we have witnessed a worldwide phenomenon of massive shifting from traditional sales channels to e-commerce, which will certainly have a boosting effect on the projections that we originally had coming into the present year. As an example, for the first time ever, I would say, more than a quarter of holiday sales will occur online in 2020. And the fact, I have here some figures, US consumers spent a collective 43.3% more with online retailers this holiday season, according to Digital Commerce 360. Also Canada, retail e-commerce reached $39.22 billion during 2020, up 20.7% from 2019. In Mexico, two of every 10 companies have experienced growth of over 300% in e-commerce sales. While post-COVID, we would say could witness deceleration of growth, we believe that e-commerce will continue to outpace the growth of other sales channels. With that on this hand, we set out to establish the second pillar of our strategy in ProChile, which is the management capability within ProChile to deliver the required services to Chilean companies, our clients, our benefits. In this regard, we have strengthened our e-commerce department, and we have trained our staff in 57 trade offices worldwide, around the world, our 16 regional offices within Chile, and we have developed the tools to help Chilean companies land in marketplaces to have a soft landing around the world. These tools include training and knowledge transfer, the creation of Chilean pavilion, marketplaces, soft landing programs, also acceleration programs and institutional agreements that have allowed many Chilean companies to place themselves in e-commerce platforms. As with every traditional channel, just landing a product in a marketplace is not enough, definitely. That's the reason, that is why the third pillar of our strategy relates to marketing and positioning of Chile and its companies and e-commerce networks. Aware of the different strategies that are required to reach consumers, top of mind, from classic digital marketing all the way to influencers, social commerce, we have pushed a series of campaigns in different markets to position Chile with its goods and services in e-commerce. Considering this above, I'm very proud to say that we in ProChile have taken the e-commerce challenge and turned it into our priority. Before being here today, surrounded by representatives of e-commerce giants such as eBay or Google or Shopify, and, for example, Tech Square venture, as panelists present today, is truly a sign that we are walking down the right path. We have much to learn, and in that regard, I would like to thank our panelists very truly in advance for the insights and trends that they will be sharing with us today, which will allow us and our companies, Chilean companies, to be better prepared to capture the many opportunities in e-commerce that e-commerce provides. In the end, I would like to leave some questions on the table for the discussion. 3 questions, for example. How important will innovative technologies such as AI or augmented reality in e-commerce. The second one, how should business optimize their digital strategies going forward? And the last but not least, what does the future of mobile shopping look like? We have panelists that are currently at the forefront of these developments is certainly an honor, and I would say a great opportunity for us to listen and learn from you. Thank you once again, and I wish you everyone a great forum. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Director, for those motivating opening remarks. And now I am absolutely thrilled to present to you our panel of experts for today's forum. So I will start with George Lever. George is our moderator, and he has over 18 years of experience in the digital economy. He is an economist from the University of Chile, specializing in e-commerce and digital studies. He currently holds the position of director at the Digital Economy Study Center of the Cámara de Comercio de Santiago. Additionally, he has taught at various universities, including the Universidad Católica and the Universidad de Chile, in subjects related to country risk analysis, price theory, and digital economy. So welcome and thank you, George. Next, I'd like to introduce Javier Aguirre. Javier has one of our first panelists that I'm introducing. Javier has over 9 years of experience in business development, strategic planning, financial analysis, and marketing in global companies such as HSBC, Samsung, and Alvarez and Marsal. Javier has a degree in industrial and systems engineering from the Tecnológico de Monterrey and an MBA from the School of Senior Management and Administration in Barcelona, Spain. Currently, Javier is Senior Manager of Business Development and Exports for eBay Latin America. So welcome, Javier. Next, Sarah Scurfield. As an e-commerce marketer at Google, Sarah works with global commerce partners to bring the best of Google services to entrepreneurs and SMBs. Sarah has been at Google for the past 10 years, and in her prior Google roles, Sarah worked within the large client sales team, heading up relationships with global retailers like Walmart, Home Depot, and Hudson's Bay. Prior to Google, Sarah ran digital marketing for an e-commerce site at Arcadia Group, owners of Topshop, Topman in London, UK. Sarah brings over 15 years of digital and retail experience to her partners and prides herself on being a trusted advisor within a changing digital landscape. So welcome, Sarah. Next, we have Gonzalo Pascual. Gonzalo leads Shopify's operations in Latin America. His focus is to increase the presence and success of merchants in the region by developing a better and stronger ecosystem of partners. Gonzalo has 20 years experience working in tech companies in different countries throughout Latin America. Prior to joining Shopify, he spent the last 9 years at Google, where he managed the Latin American sales channels team, and he currently resides in Argentina. He is an engineer and has an MBA from Harvard Business School and speaks multiple languages. Welcome, Gonzalo. And last but not least, we have Melissa Pegas. Melissa is Senior Associate at Tech Square Ventures. She is an early stage startup investor, company builder, e-commerce expert, and dedicated partner to entrepreneurs and investors. Prior to joining Tech Square Ventures investment team, Melissa led revenue strategy, GTM, and strategic partners at early stage SaaS and services e-commerce technology businesses, resulting in 5 successful acquisitions. Prior to her career in technology, Melissa was a consultant specializing in e-commerce markets. She holds an MBA from Georgetown University and a BA from Georgetown University and is a CMA candidate. She is an instructor at MIT's Enterprise Forum and serves as an advisor to several accelerators and startups. So welcome, Melissa, and again, welcome to the entire panel. George, you may take it away.
Thank you, Laura. Good afternoon. How are you? And thank you, Mr. General Director, for your opening remarks. I think that they put us in the context that why are we here? No, we are seeing a year of dramatic changes, which shift the paths of our business in general, our companies. For the first time, we are seeing a lot of SMS that in the past may not been using certain tools like e-commerce. So we are, in a way, very happy to see these changing paths in our business structure. We are seeing that a lot of companies are now discovering the possibilities of the digital channels, which is in certain ways a new form of business for a lot of companies. They have seen in the past the e-commerce as a very far away thing related to their own business. So it's very, very relevant for our future. The fact that they are now using these tools, as I said before, and exploring new opportunities. Maybe the big opportunity for go to external markets are related to these new tools that these companies are using now. So I want to thank all the panelists help us to understand these shifts, these trends. They will help us to imagine how will be the shape of this future and how we can participate. We, as small companies in Latin America in general, the case of the Chilean companies is very similar that the trends that we are seeing in a number of other countries in our region. So I think that this is a very great opportunity. I want to thank also to all the audience because the interest for this seminar has been very huge. So we are very happy with this. And I want to introduce the first round of the panel in which we will ask our panelists to give us a general vision about the situation in which we are now regarding to e-commerce after this very strange year that we are seeing in our recent past. We are also right now indeed in the middle of this COVID situation. So we want to know more about this transforming shift and the way in which the small companies are working right now with e-commerce and the opportunities that there maybe will be seen in the future. So I want to ask our panelists for these opening remarks. We have 5 minutes for each panelist, and I want to give the word to Sarah for the first of the comment.
Hi there, thank you, George. Nice to see everyone. I wanted to just start off with grounding you in what I do at Google, because I think that will help you understand more about the products and services and resources available. So My role is to work with e-commerce platforms globally. So think Shopify, WooCommerce, Mercado Libre, all of those groups. And what I try and do is bring the products, services, and resources of Google to the merchants, the entrepreneurs, and the SMBs that work within those platforms. And as was mentioned earlier, I used to work with a lot of really large retailers that would have teams that would handle things like their e-commerce initiatives and strategy and their marketing. And now that I work with SMBs, one thing has become abundantly clear, and that's you're wearing a ton of hats. And so everything needs to be streamlined and simplified right down. And then that brings us to the fact that we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And I just want to acknowledge that to begin with. We have all a ton going on right now, including in the business world. So I want to acknowledge that we're all here today, and that's thank you for being here. From an e-commerce perspective, it's been really interesting because it has created a ton of opportunity and excitement. We have seen huge growth. There are companies that we work with that are seeing record sales years last year, and I anticipate that that's only going to continue. So if you can put the foundational pieces in place from an e-commerce perspective, this is a really interesting time. So it truly is a tale of two stories. And then for today, there's a few things that I want to bring to this conversation. One, there are a ton of free and paid tools at Google that are open and available no matter what size of business you have. So I want to shine some light on what some of those tools might be to help you with things like your export strategy or figuring out areas of expansion for your business. And then finally, talking about what are sort of the key components for any business that's looking to either get into e-commerce or grow when working with big tech companies like Google. And then finally, the question that was asked of me is, what is Google's role within the e-commerce space? And when I was thinking of that, it boils down to a couple of key things. One, Google plays a really big role in helping businesses get discovered. So once a lot of these merchants that we work with and entrepreneurs have the foundational pieces in place, the number one ask of the Shopifys and WooCommerces of the world is, how do I get discovered? How do I do the marketing thing? And so that's where Google really comes in within these partnerships. The second piece is we have a responsibility to help open up new sales channels to make sure that you have access to your best customers, not only domestically, but also globally, and that you have the tools and the data to make informed decisions on that. And then finally, it's to simplify everything, especially when you're working within a small business. You wear so many hats that marketing can't be a full-time job, e-commerce can't be a full-time job. So how are the innovations at Google around automation and product and some of these partnerships that we have with e-commerce platforms like native integrations that really streamline the process of working with Google, working together to make sure that you're successful within the e-commerce space. So I'm really looking forward to the panel today and not just sharing my expertise, but also learning from everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I will pass now the mic to Javier.
Thank you, George. First of all, I want to thank all of the audience that is joining us today, and also ProChile for the invitation. We've been working closely for the past months. And this is a great opportunity to also tell a little bit about more of what I do. How can I help our audience here? And some of the things that we're seeing today at eBay and in the e-commerce general environment. So what I do is I have been working at eBay for around 5 years, and I am basically focused on bringing new small and medium businesses into the platform for doing cross-border trade. So we're what really motivates me is to work really close with all these companies and create these success stories that can help them increase their sales channels and bring their inventory, our Latin American inventory, to other parts of the world. So that's part of what really my job is about. For those of you who are not so familiar with eBay, is one of the first e-commerce platforms that was created. And actually the first sale on eBay, for those of you who don't know, was a cross-border sale from the founder of eBay a broken laser point that was sold to Canada. So it all started there. It was like an aha moment where the founder saw a great opportunity to connect everyone and democratize e-commerce around the world. In some of the trends that we are seeing right now, we see that there's a lot of moving from the physical to the digital world from a lot of companies in our region. So there are some challenges, of course, some opportunities, and within those, we find that the challenges might be that not everyone was ready, to be honest, to face this challenge. And also at the beginning, there were a lot of challenges like logistics, because as a lot of people were moving to the digital channels, the logistic partners were getting saturated with all these added pressure to the environment. But also there were some opportunities that we have seen as well. So a lot of categories were growing. For example, groceries and medication, outdoor equipment, home office equipment, and this also brought a new set of buyers to the e-commerce environment. And we see like older adults, which were the most susceptible population, were getting added to the e-commerce environment, and that's also a lot of opportunity that's coming to the site. On our side, in Latin America, we have been working on creating better tools for our sellers, creating ways to reach us. For example, we have created a page that's called crececonibe.com specifically for the Latin American market, where we can really teach those who want to learn how to do cross-border trade with eBay, and really get the opportunity to bring their inventory to other parts of the world. We created a specific business development program where you can apply on the page that I just mentioned in the contact part, where we have like one-on-one sessions, and we'll teach you how to get the most out of the tools that you have on the platform, like marketing, advertising. All of those tools are really useful, and we also teach you how to leverage on the data that the platform itself has. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Javier. Now we will hear Gonzalo.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Gonzalo here. So first of all, I would like to thank ProChile for the invitation, and mainly all of you that are watching this webinar, and I really hope that will be constructive and useful for the future of your companies. So first of all, let me give a little bit of background about Shopify. Most of you might know it, but it's good to level a little bit the play field. So Shopify mission is to make commerce better for everyone, and on international markets we added everywhere. So what we are is a SaaS platform, software as a service platform, that we focus on helping SMB to succeed in commerce. And the first interesting thing here is that we don't say e-commerce, we say commerce in general. Commerce could be e-commerce, physical, on a laptop, a computer, a phone. We believe it's important to help companies to succeed in any journey a customer will have. That's why at Shopify we have our main product, which is like an e-commerce platform, but then we also support companies on payments, and we have product on payments, shipping, we support retail, capital, and many other areas. Shopify has well above 1 million merchants globally, and it has merchants in about 175 countries. So we are talking about a truly global company with more than 20 languages that business are conducted. So one interesting thing when you talk about platform and the definition of a platform is that we are not building an empire that controls everything. We are a partnership focused company. So what Shopify does is Shopify develop a core product, but then we have a huge app store where developers produce apps that help us localize our platform in any country. For example, in Latin America, we have app developers in most all the countries. Brazil and Mexico probably are the biggest one, but everywhere, that help us with local singularities of each market. Payment, for example, is a typical example. Shipping could be another thing. Payment in installments, etc. So going with the pandemic, so 2020 brought 2030 to 2020. So what we saw was like a tremendous fast forward 10 years into the future. And what we are seeing now is that they are resilient companies and resistant companies. So those resilients are those that embrace the challenge and develop new ways to engage with customers, you name it, conversational shopping, different way of shipping or curbside pickup, etc. And those that didn't embrace that, those that are the resistant, they cannot wait until everything finish and everything go back to the old days. The news for the latter are that even if we don't know the future, most of the changes that we have lived accelerated during this year are here to stay. And all these new ways to engage in customers and to generate better ways for commerce are going to stay. And the successful companies are the ones that are going to continue using them. And also, we have seen some trends that are here more than ever. So first of all is we see that the young consumers are the ones that drive that drive behaviors. So you can see in the past, young consumers were the ones that embrace e-commerce faster. Now everybody embraced e-commerce. Social is another example, etc. A second trend is brands have to be omni-channels and must have omni-channel strategies. There's no reason to say e-commerce or physical. There's one commerce that is omni-channel. Third, invest in social media. I will share some numbers how social media is impacting and driving commerce. And finally, what goes to marketing, which is be authentic and also sustainable. So marketing, as we probably learned in the old days in university, as media and advertising and so on, really changed. And the brands have to be believable and so on. So just to throw some numbers, so at Shopify during last year, we have seen an 85% of increase in our number of merchants. So we almost doubled our size. We have seen about 80% of the consumers last year said that they bought online versus 65 said they bought offline, and 38 of these 65 said that they bought less offline than before. So there was a massive trend to online that even exceeded the offline. Social media discovery was massive. On the young group of customers, almost 60% of the young customers below 35 years old discover brands through social, and then 43 on the segment between 35 and 54 years old, and 25% of the segment above 55 years old discover brands socially. In sustainable and green, it's also the same trend. The young consumers are the ones that prefer sustainable and green brands, but this is a trend increasing. And there's also like a big push for independent brands. So consumers are moving from huge brands that they identify with big conglomerates and so on to independent brands that they identify with their own community, with SMBs. And last year, 65% of the consumers said they want to support SMBs and local brands. So the key component, as Sarah from Google mentioned earlier, would be for this independent brand to how to improve and how to increase their discoverability. This is the main challenge for independent brands, and I would love to continue discussing this through the channel, but I would like to pass it on to the next panelist and take the conversation later. So, George, thank you.
Thank you, Gonzalo. Well, finally, for this round, I want to welcome Melissa. How are you, Melissa?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here speaking with you all and with the other panelists. I'm looking forward to today's conversation. So I'll tell you a little bit about me and also what we do at Tech Square Ventures. So Tech Square Ventures, we are an early stage venture capital firm, and effectively our team partners with entrepreneurs to help them with what they need most. So it's access to markets and access to customers. Prior to joining the investment team here at Tech Square Ventures, I spent over the past decade actually living in the world of e-commerce, both working at enterprise e-com technology companies such as Spree Commerce, and Curalate, and FPP Global, all the way to supporting some of the largest and I think most beloved brands today. And so when I think about the opportunity, particularly that this trend and current events are driving, I think it's really twofold. So first, you have a captive audience online, right? This is a sort of shared experience globally where people are in their homes and they're online. And I think for any online store, that's sort of V1 of what you're looking for. You want to make sure that people are online and navigating and looking for your products. We're also seeing the rise of a lot of community building, both on existing social platforms and emerging social platforms. And so there's never been a better opportunity to truly tell your story and connect with potential customers. And in fact, we see that this is a really winning strategy for brands to be able to tell their origin stories and humanize their products. And that is quite impactful with consumers, especially the trends that we're seeing around social selling and social buying and proof-based sort of marketing tactics. And then I think the second point that is really highlighted, especially this year, is that in the rise towards embracing e-commerce, largely, I think accelerated by the necessity of shopping online this year, but also we're seeing over time consumer trends really moving in this direction. This is creating an opportunity not only for new merchants to sell their goods online, but also for ancillary services, consultants and other technology companies who are also going to support this growing group of merchants. So, I think that there is probably more opportunity in this industry than there's ever been. And that's a trend that we see sort of continuing to expand. And so that's quite exciting. And I think the final point that I'll leave you with is that from an entrepreneur's perspective, typically, I would say even a year or two ago, when we talked to founders, entrepreneurs, merchants about selling online, that was typically their expansion plan. That was their phase 2. Phase 1 was, I want to sell locally in my community with the people that I know who are walking into my store. I see every day and I'm developing a relationship with them. And, it's definitely a great tactic. And I think it's quite important. But if anything, we're sort of seeing the roles of expansion being reversed, where your primary channel for getting to market is online. And that means that the addressable market is perhaps a bit larger and creates a really exciting opportunity to scale probably quicker than you would have during any other sort of times, during any other conditions for online shopping. So, excited to talk about those trends, the opportunities that it's creating, not only for existing merchants, but also for other companies who are supporting the growth of e-com as an industry.
Thank you very much, Melissa. I think that we heard a lot of concepts and ideas, very interesting ideas. So what we will try to do in the second part of the conversation is to address some practical tips for the small companies to make this transition to an international market. Specifically thinking in what brought us here today, which is the North American country, and we are thinking in all the three countries involved. So we want to go in the conversation to the field of the how the companies must to get started in the e-commerce in these countries. No, I will ask you to share some insights regarding the main keys to success. You mentioned a good number in your opening remarks, and the most common pitfalls that these companies face in this following this goal. And first, I want to make an open question, because we are talking a lot about the situation of the pandemics. Many small and medium companies have arrived last year to e-commerce in a kind of survival strategy. When your shop is closed by a measure of the authority, you simply cannot sell anymore. But the e-commerce has been the main line of life for a lot of companies. So they go to the online sales, but this didn't mean that they are prepared for making the migration to the export sector. No, so I want to know how what you think about what is the previous path that these companies should follow to be in the position to export to this market, or thanks to the possibilities of e-commerce, they could make this transition right now in a few months. They are prepared, do you think, to go for these markets? What are your ideas or your tips regarding this question? Anybody?
I can kick it off. I have a couple of things. One is a build on what Melissa was talking about, but oftentimes what we find is companies think too local first. And so if you're just getting going in e-commerce, there's a chance to really think of your company as being headquartered in a specific country, but global in scope. So an example is I'm actually based in Toronto, Canada, and there's a company called Inkbox. When they launched globally. They're in 150 countries. Some of their best countries are Japan, which they may not have known about, and of course the United States, which is right next door. So the idea is to really expand your scope, to think about it differently. Another piece is you might be surprised which countries are best for export. So yes, of course, the United States, Mexico, Canada are good options, but Google has a tool, it's called Market Finder. You can just Google it. It's available in 30 different countries. And what it allows you to do is put in the URL of your business, and it will evaluate what categories you're in and what would be optimal countries for you to start your export strategy. So actually last night I met with a friend who has a furniture company in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. and he put in his URL, and his optimal countries were the United States, Germany, and France, which is surprising. But they look at things like, where is there an over-indexing of people searching for yard and patio furniture? And then what are the costs to be in specific marketing auctions? So high in the US, lower in France, for example. And so it arms a business with a lot of different information to make informed decisions about how they enter into international markets.
And you mentioned, sorry, Melissa, please.
I was going to also build on what Sarah mentioned when companies are thinking about how they enter international markets. I also think it's important to point out that so many founders or brands, when they're starting out, they think that they need to emulate a certain style of marketing or a certain style of brand. But what we're seeing now is that actually being forthright about telling your origin story, telling people what's special about your product that you're bringing to market, that's actually the secret marketing sauce that's going to make you really successful in market. And so, I always encourage founders and encourage brands to really lean into their authenticity, because that's what's going to help them be most successful in market, as opposed to thinking, I have to position myself to seem like a much larger, more established global conglomerate. And I think, George, you pointed to that earlier in saying that that's not necessarily what's most compelling to consumers today.
Okay. Gonzalo, Javier, one of the first question of a company trying to make e-commerce is which is the right way to do it. And there is three main ways that companies are facing in the last year. One is the marketplace, which is the obvious path, maybe because marketplace has all the tools that you need, including logistics, payment, security, which is very relevant right now in our times, and the traction of broad audience, and customers. But the second way is to make a single channel of the company and an individual store, which is the way in which Shopify works mainly. And in this case, when you use a platform like Shopify, you can access to this kind of services also, no? So it's a very good second alternative. And the third one is maybe the one most of SMS use at the beginning, which is for instance, social media, with very few professional tools for doing e-commerce, but with the possibility to interact with a lot of people, no? So what they have must to consider when they do this decision. What is the perfect combination? What is the path? The different phases of the process, especially regarding the ambitious to go international, no?
Yeah, sure. I can start there. So that's a very interesting and deep question, and there's no one single right answer, honestly. So as you point out very well, so a marketplace is more like a supermarket where you have all the products side by side. It has many services or parts of the business already solved. And mainly it generates traction and traffic by itself. Like you decide to go to a supermarket in Chile, you could go to whatever, Falabella, Paris, Ripley, and people go there and your brand is there to be discovered. When you go by your own, it's equivalent to open your own store where you control the whole experience, where you have way higher differentiation than being in the shelf of a supermarket or a department store. but you have to generate you have to be discovered by yourself and generate the traffic to your store. So this is like a main difference. Also, obviously, in the marketplace model, the margins could be lower because, yes, the supermarket or department store has to pay for all the infrastructure and the services they are providing to you. In the other one, when you go by yourself, the margins are higher, but you do have to work with tools like social or SEM or anything to be discovered. And finally, which is a big differentiation or which is a very important thing for digital, is the data. When you go to a marketplace, you don't own the data, and probably you don't know who your customers are and so on. When you do your own store, you know exactly who your customers are, what did they buy, so you are able to, you don't have like just a sale. You have a customer, and you have the possibility to build a relation and so on. You are able to learn how to better serve that person. So these are generally the pros and cons. The marketplace is easier and faster. Having your own store is something that is more for it works better for the long term and generally like a healthy business. I don't think it's one or the other. Probably for if you like put before differentiation and you want to learn and be for the long term, well, you have platforms as you mentioned, George. Thank you very much. Like Shopify that help us to have your own store and give you most of the support already done through different apps in each country. If you're in Chile, you download the apps for Chile that make us big successful in Chile. If you are in Argentina, in Mexico, Brazil, whatever. And the marketplace, on the other hand, is faster, is easier, but yes, it is more limited. So that would be the things I would consider for making a decision. And again, you will find many cases where companies combine both. Like a big brand could sell something in a supermarket and something in their own store.
Okay, Javier, do you want to add?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Gonzalo's approach. But there are also some other things that companies need to be thinking about because, I mean, you need to understand which is the best place merchandise your inventory, where you want to or where you can optimize the traffic and volume if it's in a marketplace or in your own store. We have to understand that almost 50% of total e-commerce sales come from marketplaces. So it's also a place where you can get discovered as well. Like if you can build enough trust and transparency through giving getting great customer feedback in the marketplaces, you can also start creating your own reputation within the site. Of course, not a single strategy is for everyone. So, as Gonzalo mentioned, you need to create like what part of your strategy should be on a marketplace, what part should be on your own. And for example, when you want to sell internationally, maybe it's easier to start in a marketplace and start seeing which markets you're getting more sales from. Because for example, at eBay you can go upload your inventory, and then with with a single checkbox, as Gonzalo mentioned, it's really easy to do that. You can open your inventory to 190 markets. So from there you can start seeing which of your products are the most successful. And from there, you can start a strategy to maybe expand further. So, I mean, it all comes to where your brand awareness is also. Probably if you're not a very recognized brand, you might get a little bit more confidence from the customers when they are seeing in a marketplace. And also, I mean, when I think it's different type of customers when you go on your own or in a marketplace, because probably people who go and look for marketplace are also looking for some part of discoverability of available inventory. So it also adds to where you want to get your products looked at.
Okay. Well, I suggest to try to go to the North American market now, specifically. No, if we are thinking in selling to those markets, so exporting to those markets through e-commerce, making cross-border e-commerce, we need to know first some practical tips, I think, that are related to the customers in this market, the consumers, the trends. We are all seeing this shifts brought by the pandemics, but we also know that maybe when markets will back to some kind of normal, people will go back to the physical stores. They will still be shopping online, of course, more than before the pandemics. But in a specific market, maybe we can expect some different trends, because there has been market so much matures before of the pandemics also. So what we have to consider regarding how we conduct our efforts to these markets in terms of marketing, for example. Sarah mentioned a lot of free tools available. Also the Market Finder, which I think is very awesome. And companies not have the knowledge about the existence of these kind of tools. But they need to get data. They need to get good marketing strategies. They need to solve problems related to payment methods, which Gonzalo mentioned a few minutes ago also. You need to solve the security issues. You need to know how the market works, the regulation, etc. So regarding all of these topics, I will ask you to give us a few tips to can do this transformation for the companies. Who want to start?
I feel like it's ring around the rosy. We're just going around in a nice circle. I'll keep it brief. There's a couple of tools I really like for this. Again, free tools on Google. One is called Grow My Store. It's available in a number of different markets, but if you're looking to export to the United States or Canada, for example, think of it as a health check for your website. So regardless of what platform you're on, you can go on. It will evaluate things like your mobile site speed or your website site speed, your logistics, your customer service, all of the good things that you need to make sure that you're compatible with an export strategy. So I love that tool. Another piece is that e-commerce isn't for everyone. So you have to think more expansively about commerce, as Gonzalo mentioned. So things like, what does your digital storefront look like? How are you using your social channels or YouTube or even your business profile on Google to make sure that you have a brand story that goes across all of your channels? So even if you are in a marketplace strategy and you have your own website, you just want to put the customer at the center of all of that and make sure that you have a cohesive strategy that's clear and streamlined across all of those areas before you expand it to different markets.
Also on the cross-border commerce piece, I think there are a lot of great things that brands offer that are unique around their marketing and brand story, but they should, the things that are also going to be important for the customer are the shipping, logistics, and payments. And this is a great opportunity to partner with really established platforms like an eBay and like a Shopify, because one, it's going to shore up that customer trust because their brands are also quite strong in the market and they're very familiar with having purchased from other brands that are also using the platform. And they also take out some of that headache and make it a bit more seamless to optimize for the customer experience. Because, one of the things that you're really trying to achieve when you look from the perspective of your e-com store is, how do I remove any doubt in the customer's mind when they're trying to decide, is it going to be difficult to pay for this product? Am I going to have it? Is there a challenge in receiving the physical good? And so, it's never been a better time or an easier time, just the proliferation of these platforms, to double down on the part of your brand that you know best and to really rely on established partners to shore up customer trust and facilitate that ease of transaction.
And just to add up a little bit regarding eBay, as I mentioned, there's this page, crececonebay.com, where you can go and take a look at the available tools that we have. They're all for free. And for example, when you're thinking about strategy to go, for example, to the US, there's available tools within the site when you're a seller, where you can see what are the trends and prices that are positioning the best products in the site. So there's this tool called Therapic where you can go and check, for example, if you're not sure if your pricing strategy is right for the market, you can go there and maybe put a phone or a laptop, and you can see if you have available inventory that will be competitive within the site. Because, I mean, at the end, information is key for you. So we try and be as transparent as possible with new businesses that want to join, so that they can decide before doing a lot of work whether or not they have like competitive inventory that will be sold in the site. And there's the other strategy where you have like one-of-a-kind products. Then, I mean, you have to test and learn from selling on a marketplace and see if that is the correct way for you to go. But at the end, you will have a lot of data also available, because, for example, you will see all the traffic, the impressions, the clicks, the sales that you have on the marketplace. And you can also start creating a better strategy for your brand in the marketplace by taking all of this data for your best landing in every market.
Okay, and there is some special tip regarding the marketing, for instance, in this vertical market. I mean, you talk, for instance, Melissa, about the relevance to make your story and share your story with the customers. But maybe in different countries, the kind of stories that the consumers are evaluating and are meaningful for them are different. How is the situation in the North American market?
Yeah, so I think, building on storytelling being so important, we also see consumer trends towards value-based shopping. And so, that's what I meant when I said sort of telling the story behind your brand. It's really important for consumers today to make sure that the brands that they're purchasing from not only carry the products that they like and that they want, but also that the companies stand for values that they also support, which means that they are socially conscious, they're trying to do good, or certainly doing more good than harm. And there is no more inspiring or empowering story than the entrepreneur who sort of pulls themselves up by their bootstraps and scales and sells online. As we've mentioned earlier, there's even been a bit of resistance towards purchasing from larger global conglomerates. And so, I think it's also a great time to connect with customers, because when they are evaluating purchases today, it's not just product and price, but it's product, price, and company values.
Thank you. Well, we have a few minutes left, so I wanna ask you to make a kind of final remarks. Thinking in always in this practical way to give tips for the companies regarding the current situation. I mean, there is when we begin to shop physically again. Maybe some new SMs in e-commerce will have kind of disappointment because of the intensity of the e-commerce sales will be not as high as in the last few months. So how we retain these companies and how we give them tools to go for the export sector. To believe the story, this opportunity, how we can be successful in this new era of e-commerce locally, but also thinking in the North American market in this case.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if I can start, just to summarize and to focus mainly on the cross-border to North America. So first of all, we said a couple of times, I don't think companies should think about e-commerce, physical, and so on. There's commerce. And companies, and we all are going to adapt in the way the consumer wants to move commerce forward. So we should think holistically, omnichannel, give the name you want, but we should think overall. So trying to focus on the cross-border, I think to summarize many of the things we already said, if we're a local company and we address a local need, there's like a lot of chances that there's like a similar need in another market. In this case, North America, in Mexico, Canada, and the US, probably there's very similar needs than Chile. So there's a lot of chances that this company can succeed also there. The second phase is differentiation. I mean, because if you want a company from a customer in Mexico, Canada, or US to buy from a company in Chile, there has to be a reason why. So, but here I would like to tweak and take some of the concepts that Melissa gave, that differentiation can be translated to authenticity. Like, what kind of company are you? What are your values? And probably being yourself is the best way to differentiate. Yes, different countries have different preferences, but if you want to be something else, you are not going to succeed, like in life. Third, we also mentioned we need to make things easier. Like, probably if you have experiences into Canada, it will be a good idea to look for partners that know the market and make your life easier in the shipping, in the payment, in the local knowledge of the market. And finally, to learn. So every time you do this, you have the chance to learn. That's why companies like Shopify, where you own your data, are, I mean, great sources for you to learn. And then you iterate. You do it again and again and again. So probably that would be like a final thought I would like to give to summarize what we said.
Sarah?
Yeah, I can go next. I actually think the big headline for me during this year isn't that e-commerce has taken off. I think for me, it's more like business is finally catching up to the consumer. The expectations of the consumer have been higher than what we've been receiving for a really long time. And so from a practical standpoint, when you're going into the US market, for example, searches for things like X product near me or curbside pickup are up 3,000% year over year. So we're just seeing this huge burst of different types of shopping. And if I had a crystal ball and I was looking into next year, I would assume those expectations will remain the same. What we may see is more of people doing their research online and then being a bit more varied in where they actually spend their dollars. But I anticipate that the digital acceleration that we're seeing this year is only going to continue. There's a couple of trends driving that. One, there's digital newcomers. This has been a chance. Everybody has been thrown into this new normal, and so they're stepping outside their former comfort zones and shopping online for the first time. Once you get those folks into the mix, they're not going to leave necessarily, so it's opening up new markets. Two, bricks and mortar are going to start catching up to these pure play or digitally native businesses. And so that's one to watch too, because they're going to create new expectations of customers. And so if you're going into these markets and you are e-commerce only, you want to be thinking about a broader set of competitors, if you will. And then finally, to end off, I just want to reiterate, there's a lot of really great tools, because whatever you do, you want to keep the customer at the center of any of these strategies. And I mentioned a couple of tools that Google has, because one thing we do have is a lot of data on searches, which can often be a good proxy for demand. And so I mentioned Market Finder, you can Google that. Grow My Store is another one. And then another one that I love is called Rising Retail Categories. And essentially what that does is shows you what people are searching for. So for instance, in the North American market, people are really into Netflix shows right now. So things like The Home Edit or Mary Kondo, they're looking up storage ideas and decluttering their home. So there's lots of really good insights that you can find to help inform your strategy as you move into these markets.
And is there a good place to find all the relevant tools available for companies?
There is. There's a main site called Google for Small Business, and it's in global in scope, as well as if you work with a platform like Shopify or WooCommerce or Loja Integrada, we have a lot of resources with those platforms as well.
Thanks. Melissa?
Yeah, so the last note that I'll wrap up on is, I think we've sort of belabored the point that there's a ton of opportunity for online merchants. But one thing that I would like to highlight is that in the outsized growth for e-commerce, this also means that shoppers are building new habits, which I think creates a lot of opportunity for anyone who is supporting that process of online commerce. So not just if you have a good that you're selling yourself, but this ever expanding group of merchants is going to need a lot of support from people to help them with marketing, shipping and logistics operations, their social media. And so I really do think about these trends as a rising tide that is going to raise all ships. And so I truly believe that there is a place in these, in the growing trends in this growing market that can empower people regardless of what part of the e-com process that they're operating in, whether it's giving merchants new tools to sell online or selling online themselves.
Thank you. Javier?
Yeah, thanks. Just to close this, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. So I think in general, when you think about exporting, I don't think there has ever been like an easier way or a better time to do it, because every day that passes, we will have more available tools. There will be better logistical service, better payment methods. This is just growing so fast that those people who are not taking part of this like cross-border commerce, it will happen the same that when people last year, when the pandemic started, they were not ready, and those who were not ready had a harder time to keep up the pace. So cross-border should become an option for those of you who have already been like top you have topped your sales in your domestic market and you're looking for new ways to get new customers. For example, in eBay, we see that 100% of the Chilean buyers, sellers that we have, they already export, and 70% of that goes to the US. The US, for example, has 67% of adults are already spending 10% of their online shopping doing cross-border. So this will become a bigger trend in the upcoming months. So I ask you to consider if it is a good option for you, as it will be 20% of total e-commerce will be cross-border.
Thank you very much. Well, I think the panel has been very, very interesting and useful for everybody. I want to thank you all, the panelists, and give the word to Laura for the concluding remarks.
Great. Well, thank you very much, George. Thank you, panel, for your insights, for sharing your knowledge. That was great. I just see that there's this overwhelming theme about, the time is now. Gonzalo, you mentioned that 2030 was kicked into 2020. You have a captive audience. So for all you SMBs out there, you have a captive audience right now. So tell your story, humanize your products, make sure that your authenticity is out there. Leverage the multitude of tools, many free tools that are available in the market. And Sarah, you mentioned several, Javier with eBay. And one of the other themes that I seem to hear is that, the importance of developing partnerships to build trust with your transactions, these cross-border transactions. So thank you for that. And with that little bit of a summary, I'd like to present to you the International Director of ProChile, Ms. Carolina Vasquez, who has some closing remarks for you.
Thank you very much, Laura. And I would like to express that I'm honored to have the chance to bring this 5th International Forum by ProChile to a close. Across these sessions, we have been able to share key insight with truly senior experts in the field of digital transformation, logistics, retail, and e-commerce. This 5th forum has allowed us to gain top-of-the-line insights into the future of trade through digital means, as social distancing policies have pushed most of us, if not all of us, to increase our online engagement and especially to buy through e-commerce platforms. In Chile, our mission is to always be in the front line of new trade trends, helping our companies acquire the tools needed for them to thrive in international markets. Today, as our panelists have made it very clear, we cannot think of internationalization if we are not digitally ready. Therefore, I would like to sincerely thank the wisdom shared by George, Melissa, Gonzalo, Sarah, and Xavier today. Thank you very much. E-commerce is constantly evolving, integrating, and delivering whole new B2B and B2C experiences. If companies from Chile and elsewhere are to thrive in increasingly digitalized markets, they have to be e-commerce ready. Through several support programs, ProChile helps the internationalization of businesses, but we do so with the goal of also being effective by making sure that the companies that we help have the adequate market fit. As we do so, we have incorporated e-commerce horizontally as a tool that every company should develop. We will keep working in that direction in order to make sure that we are able to capture these upcoming trends. Thank you once again, everyone, and hope you have a wonderful evening.
Great, thank you, Carolina. Thank you very much. And I would just like to give a big thank you to all of our panelists. That was wonderful. As well to the Cámara de Comercio de Santiago and to all of our other partners. And a big thank you to everybody that has joined us today. we wish you a great remainder of the day and stay safe, everyone. Thank you.